It might not look like much, but tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, which will be a week before this goes out, thousands of people will be streaming through these gates into Rail Live. This is the Rail Live episode. You know, it's been a year since the last one. What's changed since last year? Well, a few bits and pieces. You know, this is still fundamentally a plant show with a kind of an international air show twist and vibe, with everything sort of in between that the railway can bring. You know, it's Porterbrook who now own the site. This is the Long Marston Rail Innovation Centre now. I can't remember what it was called before, but it had an equally long, convoluted name. Quite a few things have changed. I mean, for starters, there's a lot of tarmac and concrete and new hardcore around where formerly there were potholes, so that's good. There's all sorts we're going to be looking at today. You know, we're going to be looking at innovations in kind of freight and passenger, sort of rolling stock, Eversholt, Porterbrook, others. I'm not sure Angel are here. Quite a few innovations like that. Network Rail have got plenty here. You know, all the plant and stuff. But it'd be remiss of me to kind of ignore the dark cloud. I know it doesn't look like there's one at the moment, but it'd be remiss of me to ignore the dark cloud that hangs over Rail Live this year, because I'm filming this in setup day, which is why there's lots of stuff going on and lots of beeps all over the place. There's a rail strike on now, the first of 3 days worth of strikes, and you know, full solidarity to the RMT. It's absolute. I think they've been cornered. Lots of people watching this might not share this view, but they've been cornered on this one. But that doesn't mean that this is this is going to be an episode of doom and gloom. It's a chance, if you like. You know, Rail Live is a chance to have a look at some of those stories, some of the stories of the workers who are making the railway kind of better, talking about change. There's going to be a thread running through tonight's episode, kind of looking at sustainability, looking at the ways in which we can work smarter whilst making the use of the workforce we have. Not a smaller workforce, but there is such a large challenge that we need to be growing our workforce, making the use of the workforce that we have, expanding those skills, making use of the skilled people that we have, and expanding those skills and that skills base. So I'm only going to be speaking to people on Wednesday, so the non-strike day, that's tomorrow, so the first day of the event. I think probably that's when most people will be here anyway, because that's when the trains will nominally be running, even though... So we're going to be speaking to lots of people on Wednesday, I hope, and hearing some of those stories, and remembering kind of the way that people, you know, fundamentally people are what make this industry tick. And so that's the plan. We'll see how it is. As ever, I've no idea how this will stitch together. There's so much to look at. It's going to be a bit different to last year. It's not going to be a repeat of last year's episode. I'm not going to do a walkthrough. I'm going to pick on particular things that I think are interesting, talk to some people, you know, a few more chats with interesting people, and we'll go from there. So yeah, let's see what happens, shall we? I think we're going to just get into it. None of this faff that I did last time. Without further ado, welcome to tonight's Rail Natter. And as the Intercity 225 fades away, here I am on the main thoroughfare. Very much setup time still. There's stuff being assembled around me as we speak. There's the showrunner himself, Nigel, keeping an eye on things. Yeah, people are assembling things. You know, we've got assembly of all sorts of bits and pieces. People are putting the exhibits up. This is going to be less of a madcap dash as it was last year. So this is Tuesday, it's strike day. So I'm not going to be speaking to anyone. I'm not interviewing anyone today. I think that's the right thing to do. Likewise on Thursday. So I'm going to be doing all my interviewing on Wednesday. I'll be doing some filming of B-roll and bits and pieces on the strike days, but I'm not going to speak to anyone. What we are going to do is sort of go through, I think we're going to split into 4 segments. So in each of those segments, I'm going to pick up, kind of have the discussion with, going to have, 4 segments. Segment number 1 is going to be going through some exhibits, seeing some of the exhibits, the non-plant exhibits that is, so all the various sort of physical things. A lot of it's infrastructure, but there's some, there's other things as well related to operations and signalling and sort of welfare as well, perhaps, that we'll pick up, but we'll spot a few of those things. Segment 2 shall be plant. We shall have a look at plant. So these things, all this stuff. This is the main thoroughfare, Main Street, if you like, and I'm surrounded by hundreds of millions of pounds Yeah, I don't know what the estimate was. Recently it was like £750 million or something bonkers. Anyway, a lot of kit around us. You know, bearing in mind each of these things is the best part of £1 million. You know how much change for £1 million. Yeah, crikey. Anyway, so the plant, we're going to go and actually speak to some of the teams who run that stuff and talk to them about what their stuff does, what they've been innovating with, you know, how they're making things more sustainable, that sort of thing. I think there's some exciting stories to tell there. What else? The third of our segments will be trains. We'll go and have a look at some trains, so passenger freight, and indeed the inspection and maintenance trains that there are kind of hanging around. So quite a lot to look at there. The fourth and last of our segments shall be people. I'm going to have a little quick speaky session with the PWI. So that'll be good. Have a chat with the PWI, Permanent Rail Institution, have a chat with NSAR, the National Skills Academy for Rail, and have a chat with the ORR, because I think it'd be interesting to ask, with strikes and with the pressure being put on Network Rail, how are the ORR managing and being confident about safety going forwards? This is a serious challenge, you know, and the ORR finds itself between a rock and a hard place. Government telling it what it wants, and the ORR having to deal with, frankly, you know, the fact that government's decisions are the opposite of what the ORR wants to happen. So let's see what the ORR say and perhaps do a bit of reading between the lines. Let's let a van go past here, because it's all set up time. You know, I've got my oranges on, but it's important to make sure that everyone can see me and that I don't get run over mid filming, because that'd be I suppose quite funny. Anyway, that's the main thoroughfare. All the plant, you can see things there. There's a massive multi-LED array thing going on there. I mean, I wonder what that will end up being. So those are the 4 segments. We'll then do a bit of a roundup. I'll probably do a bit of a roundup as I leave on Thursday, in fact. So that'll be it. 4 segments. It will be exhibits, plant, trains and people. Those are the 4 segments. And in amongst that, we'll see who else we can speak to. I might see a few friends in amongst as well. So that's the plan. I'm inside a culvert, or indeed a segment of a culvert. And for this segment of the podcast, see what I did there, very nice. For this segment of the podcast, we're going to be talking to lots of exhibitors. We're going to be going around exploring the exhibitions, because last year I was running around like a headless chicken. This year I'm not going to do that. Be a bit more targeted, but still to give you a feel for some of the things we're seeing around the event today. Or rather tomorrow, because today is Tuesday and it's setup day, which is why there's lots of stuff going on, but there's no people here, whereas tomorrow there will very definitely be lots of people here. Anyway, I'm waffling. Let's go and have a look and see what's going on, shall we? Looks like tram. In true me style, we're actually going to start with a chat with Noel from Fury and Fray. We actually spoke at the end of Wednesday when both of us were completely exhausted. But for various reasons, the video melted. It got pixely and then the file just died. So I got a couple of bits of B-roll from Fury and Fray. But actually what I'm going to do is, in the background, play... well, you can see me and Nigel having a chat here. Nigel gave me a little tour around on the end of Tuesday, on the end of the setup day, where I stuck the camera at the back of the little buggy and filmed a bit of the site. So let's have a look at the size of this site and spot a few little Easter eggs in amongst that while we chat with Noel from Fury and Fray. Sorry, Noel, but I suppose people are going to avoid us looking sweaty and exhausted on the end of Wednesday, so maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Anyway, onwards. We're at F&F, we're at Fury and Fray, Noel is here. Hello, Noel.
Hello.
I always come and harass you at Rail Live, and I stopped you from getting an ice cream earlier, so
I've now had an ice cream.
We've both now had ice creams. Most of it's not in my moustache anymore. We started with Lego because there's this nice little display of what Fury and Fray get involved in, which is nice. You know, I love these, the little sort of charging stations for bus and tram. That's quite nice.
Inverted pantographs.
Let's trot over here because there are two. Okay, hopefully everyone watching this kind of knows the deal of what F&F do. So we're going to just talk, and if they don't, frankly, talking about these 2 products will give them a bit of a summary of the deal, I think.
Electric railways.
Electric railways. That's it. Done. Yeah, for sure. Railways. That's it. Yeah. Electric. You literally. It's a company that embodies the hashtag electrify all the things.
99 years of electrification.
It's not bad going, is it?
It's not bad going. Yeah.
So I'm going to spin around because behind us is the thing. Well, the first thing we're going to talk about, which people might have seen it in trial at Wellingborough. Here it is.
This is literally from Wellingborough.
Hacksaws out.
It is hacksawed out from Wellingborough, taken here. So, in a single paragraph is if you've not seen this, is conductor bar. You want to bring an electric freight train into a yard. Yeah, how do you do that? How would you, if you've got wires above the track, well, how do you load, unload? So essentially with this, a train can come in with its pantograph up. When it's in, you press the button. My colleague will press a button.
Yeah, beautifully timed.
And then this just, I don't trust myself with a laptop. And then this just folds out the way and it interlocks.
I was going to say, it's interlocked with like the depot management system and sort of
things like gantry cranes. So at Bounds Green in North London, it's interlocked with gantry walkways, so you can't even walk up the stairs to the top of the train unless.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good.
And it goes into earthing points, so it's just earthed and safe to use. So yeah, we've done these in depots. So if you picture you want to get an air conditioning unit out the top of a train, you can just move this out of the way, get your gantry crane in, and it's really doing it for freight. So yeah, that's the big long-term plan, is how do you get the UK to consider electric freight?
Yeah, just wired last mile, you know. Yeah.
End-to-end freight journeys, and yeah, we've done so much work on just trying to convince people that if you're wiring like the Midland Main Line, perhaps consider, if we want to decarbonise the UK,
do the connecting track work as well. Yeah, for sure. So let's whiz this way. So that's there. It's exciting to see that. Frankly, because I'm in the process of speccing that for for another depot, which I can't talk about because I'd have to kill everyone who's watching this. So the other thing here, now I can't pick it up with one hand, but Noel can pick, because this will hint as to what it is. That is a section of, I'm going to stand over here and use my other hand. It's a section of, well, what is it? Tell us about it.
It's an overhead line mast, so if you picture a traditional H or I section steel mast.
So if I come down here and show you the section, it's not that.
Yeah, so this is a solid square, but it's composites, so, and that's just a lot lighter. So it's about 80% weight reduction. This is 12 kilos, so a steel mast this size would be about 80, so you need a couple of people to lift it.
So it's in terms of installation, it's much easier to install. Yeah, and it's a light bit of kit. You
just picture, just the size of the plant you need when it's that much difference. So the full size one here is 80 kilos. So you're going to something that's half a ton.
So the metre of 80 kilo steel to the whole thing in composite being 80 kilos. There it is above our head. Very nice.
Yes, it's a 6 metre mast, so it's a full-size electrification mast. Yeah, and it's 80 rather than like 450 or so kilos, so it's a big old saving. So yeah, we did carry it here, 3 of us off the back of the lorry. Wouldn't recommend it, but it is.
That's not the approved working practice for this.
Process, but and that's the big thing. And the other thing is embodied carbon. So electrification's great. It's the only real way to decarbonise the railways that you can just do now with technology available.
But there is a carbon cost to actually doing the work.
If you build concrete foundations, steel masts, there's obviously embodied carbon with that. So if you can reduce it, that speeds up your payback period. So this is about 75% reduction in embodied carbon. So it's a massive.
That's huge.
A massive saving, and that's probably the bigger thing with this, is just how much saving. So a typical railway is a 3-4 year embodied carbon payback. This is going to be a lot less when you factor it in with smaller foundations. It's maybe 1 or 2 years. So
really? So it halves the carbon. That's massive.
A massive thing is just the carbon of making large steel sections.
Large piece of steel. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they've both been fun. They've been good projects to work on.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say, and I think they quite neatly embody kind of what F&F do in terms of like innovating, keeping things moving, but also continuing to hunt for the way to desperately get people to accept electrification on that. It's like, okay, fine, we'll come up with another way to make your life easier. Oh, here's another way to make your life easier. Look, we're doing our best here.
Whenever I speak to anyone in the DFT, in Network Rail, they all know electrification is the way to go. It's convincing the people who hold the purse strings is the challenge.
It's treasury. Yes. No, you weren't going to say that, but I am, can, and will. Thanks for that. No, that's great. That's great. And serious export value as well. Without saying who, like there are some people, not just it's likely to see some orders fairly soon.
Building fully electric railways from scratch. HS2 is obviously one in the UK, but yeah, plenty of other people are doing.
But even specifically your snazzy, particularly the
freight,
so the freight, the retractable.
People,
you've got people very interested.
Far ahead, and actually building electric freight railways is an amazing thing. Yeah,
for sure. Nice one. Well, thanks, Noel. That's
Cheers,
great.
Gareth.
Eduardo, I've been visiting Yeltec with my day job hat on for as long as you've been at Rail Life. I remember the first time I came, essentially, I think it was just the temperature sensor and the original large version that was on the table, and now we're surrounded by fantastic looking whiz gigs. Tell me about what's the latest thing? Every year there's some exciting new thing that is genuinely useful for me in my day job as a design engineer. So what's the latest bit of kit that you've got that you want to talk about on this table of whiz jigs?
Absolutely. So thanks for opening, by the way. So as you mentioned, technology, as an engineering technological company, technology keeps moving on a day-to-day basis, and we think the way forward is to continue innovating. Obviously competition is very, very fierce out there. Therefore, the way that we compete is by looking at new technology, what's coming and what's not, what's the requirement from the customer, and from then, obviously, try to develop. So we have a team of engineers that are looking at what problems we can solve with the technology that we have available, the technology that is coming, and that's why you can see new products. We have a rail gauge monitor.
The optical one, and the buckle sensor.
Vibration monitoring and void monitoring, and it's a new technology.
So it's the void monitor. Interesting.
And also working in partnership with other companies, we have introduced a new camera, AI camera, which basically tells you about trespassing. The software is very powerful, so you can set up any distinguish any color, person, animal, etc. And you can choose to alarm accordingly. So it's all about innovation, partnership.
Yeah, well, this is it. Well, you said I was chatting to you and the team earlier, and it's like a bunch of engineers come along and say, "Oh, I've got this issue," and you go, "Right, okay, we can probably do something about that."
We can help you.
Yeah. So for all the PO engineers out there, hello, Yeltec, come and ask if you've got a particularly gauging. The Yeltec will solve your problem.
Absolutely.
So, nice one. Hey, thanks, Eduardo. That's terrific.
All
nice
right.
one.
Good.
Cheers. Cheers. Right, everyone. I've come over to Dura Composites, which I got very excited about last year. I think particularly Nora. In fact, the crew just came and told me that I was very excited about Nora. So that's good. I'm here with Tom and Stuart. Tom and Stuart are here. We're going to talk about a couple of things, a few products, very briefly. I'm going to come around here so we can see us, but we're all here. Firstly, behind us is a platform, right? It's an assembled platform. Well, chaps, tell me about the platform. Why is this one exciting? Because this bit on top, this isn't new. You've been doing this for a long while. So tell us why the bit at the bottom is. Now I'm going to try and frame the shot sensibly. In fact, if you want to whiz, I'll stand there. There we are. Tell us about it.
Okay, so already, as you know, Queen's award-winning patented railway platform system, and where we've been concentrating on overlay systems. However, the market's now pushing for a free-spanning structure that's composite, gets away from all the issues of corrosion, rot, it's lightweight, manhandleable. But the biggest problem is the standard is a 6 metre span, and unfortunately in the composite world we haven't been able to hit Network Rail specifications for a 6 metre span. So we've actually developed a beam system, 400 by 200 I-beam.
Come down here just to show everyone this.
Now will span and fully compliant 6 metre pile cap to pile cap. So for the first time we can actually offer, with minimal groundworks and competing with existing steel systems, a full composite solution for Network Rail.
And the advantage of this compared to, people, it looks a bit like steel, right? People see it and say, oh, it looks like steel, which I suppose is a high compliment maybe. But the key thing is that steel rots, and it's also got lots of hidden critical elements, little bits and pieces that can't get in and looked at, inspected. It's harder to maintain, whereas this is...
And being non-conductive, so a lot of the earth strapping doesn't need to go on. But the biggest thing, in fact, we spoke with one of our biggest customers today, and he said the beam being 6 metres long and 200 kilos means that it is manhandleable on site with a team of manpower rather than having to bring in
RRVs and craning and stuff like that.
So for him, it's a game changer, that especially on those where access is tight and you need to be fast, minimising disruption for the end client, then it's an absolute game changer for him that he can manhandle these on site.
Fantastic. So that's, very exciting. Hopefully see some of that in some of the various platform alterations and upgrades we're going to be seeing in new stations perhaps over the next, soon hopefully. But there are other things you wanted to show. So
there is.
Tell us about this behind us, because this I think you were saying this kind of tells the story quite nicely about of the way that Dura works, the way that you develop your products. Yeah. So
this is really finding the solution to a new and upcoming problem that has been on the network already, but is becoming more and more prevalent, and that is the front of train wash. So at the moment we know that water has to be captured off of the front of the train. It can't be putting chemicals and water directly onto the track. So in this, systems that are available on the market are non-structural, are extremely large, the length of the train, and are harvesting huge amounts of rainwater. So it deals with another problem of now you've got large volumes that might have potential chemicals in to dispose of, rather than just a small amount from the hose. So this product's actually been developed from the ground up to be structural. It integrates with an existing 5 kilonewton walkway, and it actually has a 5 kilonewton loading rating on it, so you can continuously walk over this without causing any damage. And in effect what we're doing is we're capturing the front of train wash and holding it in a trap that deals with the silt and then can be easily disposed of. And because it's so small, we're not harvesting rainwater. It means that 90% of it evaporates. However, it's actually being emptied via the CET.
Very nice. Yeah, the controlled emission tanks for everyone. That's the way the toilets get emptied by trains.
What that then means is we have no disruption from the track down. So the installation process becomes super quick, captures a small amount of water and can be dealt with locally, rather than harvesting huge amounts of water and then having a secondary problem on how to deal with it.
So this now gets me excited, because this gets me excited for day job reasons, because I'm working on depots at the moment. So anyway, that's by the by. But anyway, yeah, that's fantastic. I will be putting B-roll in of actually showing you what we're talking about momentarily. Excellent. Oh, thanks for that, Tom. That's great. So I tell you what, let's walk over to to kind of people might have the question, why composite, why not timber? Let's wander over to the Dagger boards, since they became so famous last time. Go on, Stuart, you come and join us. We've not spoken to you. Thanks, Tom. That's great. We're going to talk about timber versus composite. Why should people make the decision here? Which is better environmentally, from a asset management perspective? Here we are. The platform Dagger boards look very nice. Yeah, there we are. They're very nice.
Well, you asked the question why composite instead of timber, and it's also a question of, because what we have been a little bit secretive about is that there are quite a few other companies that use GRP for this solution, and we actually have a patented different material that has got a foam core, super light, and the advantage over timber is that it doesn't rot ever, and you can machine it as using the word machine, you can machine it on a large scale using a CNC machine that is just brilliant and very difficult to set up, but once it's set up it's fantastic. And of course some people, especially heritage, on different types of applications, go back to timber because it needs to look like timber. It needs to have the aesthetic, and that's where this comes in. So we've managed to go past and through those heritage challenges over to this. And what I was going to say was that this material is something like 3 or 4 times lighter than GRP.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
So instead of providing it in sheets that are manhandleable, that are this size, we can now provide them in sheets that are manhandleable, that are this size, 3 or 4 times the size.
Which accelerates installation.
It goes much quicker. So everyone's happy, especially the end user, because their station is disrupted less.
Fantastic. Stuart, and also Tom, who's busy again speaking to other customers. This is fantastic. Thanks so much for that.
Driver access platform?
I tell you what, that's a good point. Let's go and speak about the driver access platform. So behind here is a driver access platform. Tell us about this. Tell us what the problem statement was about this and what this solves.
Well, what we're doing here is driver access platforms, of course, aren't that new, but using GRP technology is new. But what we've done is really listening to the problems on the ground about access, about even taking equipment up and around the driver platform. There used to be clashes, for example. We've managed to make sure that we can embed lighting into the platform, and we've managed to take note of the absolute space requirements that do exist.
They always have to fit into incredibly tight spaces. As again, said depot I'm working on, you have such a tight space to fit platforming in, and it is a real challenge.
So we've been lucky enough that the train operating company we're working with bring in the people on the ground to our premises and talk about their issues. So instead of having, I think this is the spec, which always happens, and then it gets on site and then people moan about it because it's not quite right. We've tried to engineer it through all the people that are going to use it, rather than take it to site and then learn afterwards. So that's been a massive change on that. And it's not dissimilar to Envirosump, actually. Again, working with train operating company, we developed the product through their problem that they were facing.
Nice.
So it's a good way for it to work.
I often moan about innovation because it's, you see the tech side innovation is often like, let's invent a problem and then make money off a solution. This is on the railways. It's the opposite way around. This innovation comes from necessity is the mother of all invention. This is coming from problems that need solving, and so it has a use case from the go.
It really resonates with us because we've just rewritten our vision, and it's to solve impossible infrastructure problems sustainably. So it's all about solving the problems that people have got that are on a big scale and doing it in a sustainable way. So that's what we're all about, and that's how this comes through.
Nice one, Stuart. Thanks so much. That's brilliant. So there's a kind of a thread running through. Whenever I'm at Rail Live, there's threads of like people championing sustainability. I'm at the Aqua Stand, by the way. Aqua do all sorts of fantastic drainage stuff. So in fact, I came over. I remember getting excited about the Aqua Stand specifically about catch pits that have a swingable lid. It's like genius. Rather than just being loosely fitted, they've got a hinge. They open up. Genius. That the thread's running through there. The sustainability, people pushing the envelope as much as they can to reduce whole life carbon cost. Reduce the amount of heavy kit needed, so you reduce the amount of fuel being burned. You reduce you reduce boots on ballast to improve safety, and ultimately all that is good stuff for sustainability. Look at this, it's quite nice, isn't it? Catching, reducing flow rates, managing flow rates rather, catching silt, all the nice things. I'm just going to get the Aqua logo in the background because they've got some nice, drainage is very important. But actually, one of the more interesting things that I've spotted is over at Scott Parnell, who often have the most mundane little things. I get angry about innovation being, tech innovation being inventing problems and then coming up with solutions to it. Scott Parnell have been doing some quite interesting. Hi, thanks, Aqua. Scott Parnell have been doing some very interesting stuff. Every year I come, there's something new, some new whiz gig. But let's go and speak to them to see what new and strange innovation they've come up with that I want to share with you. Right, I've come over to Scott Parnell as promised. Here we are, we're with Carl, who is going to talk to us about what I can describe it as his giant carbon dry spaghetti, but it is not that. Carl's going to tell us what it actually is.
Absolutely not. What it actually is 95% recycled plastic waste. And it looks like spaghetti.
Yeah.
And it does. And
it does have that vibe, but it's a bit more useful.
Absolutely.
Right?
But because it looks like spaghetti, it gives us this strength to keep ballast open and keeps an open void structure within ballast that gets silted up. So what we're seeing here today is the water, unlike a pipe.
Yeah, we can come down and have a look.
Unlike a pipe requires a full moon to look through. You don't need the full moon with this product. So we're actually proving here that water really can go uphill.
I was going to say, you've got it at an angle to just show that it's naturally flowing kind of up and out at the other end.
Absolutely. So as the water's meandering through the product and we bring it to the other end, it's there cascading out.
Yeah.
Now what's interesting about this could be typically a waterfall coming down an embankment to cause a lot of problems. Waterfall that perhaps wasn't there yesterday. So how do you diffuse it? So we take the leaky dam principle by changing the product in the other way, and there you go. You've now actually diffused the pressure of the water and created a leaky dam. Whilst at the same time enabling the water to be taken to a carrier drain where it will be dispersed.
So one of the interesting things we're talking about is, so we can see this kind of on its end here, but you're talking about the fact that this can double up as kind of do more than one job at once. If you lay it flat, it can act as like a geotextile and a kind of a geogrid as well.
So if we look at this little unit behind here.
Yeah, here we are.
So what we have here is we've now taken the product on its flat and we've covered it in ballast and gritty sand and everything. So to prove why doesn't it stick? It doesn't. The silts don't stick to the product because it's plastic and it's inert, so it goes through. So if we show a bucket of water here, pour that over there. You can see all the silts are actually being flushed through the product. So you still manage the silts. The silts go at a slower rates to the water. So the idea is get rid of the water, let it flow, let the silts follow behind. And the big win, of course, is when there is then a heavy flush, it flushes the entire system through.
I see. And you've got this sort of, so in terms of the geogrid behaviour, this is a plastic, so it means the ballast, pressure of the ballast, the big chunks of ballast embed into this and lock in the matrix of the ballast. So you're getting that double behaviour.
It basically works on the caking principle, where Carl von Terzaghi, who's the Austrian soil mechanic back in the 1800s, basically established that the caking principle, where you keep the large particles out, let the small fines through.
Flow through, yeah.
And what you're seeing is the modern day 21st century version using plastic waste, which would otherwise go to landfill.
Yeah, I was going to say it's 95, nominally 95%, but actually it's kind of arguably a little bit more than that.
So we're actually giving landfill and plastic waste a purpose.
Yeah, it's terrific.
Which is great.
Yeah.
So when this is on the other way up or in different applications, everything from the crest, flumes, toe of the ballast, in the cess, in the 6 foot, catch pit to catch pit, spurs into the shoulder, is keeping the ballast open to enable the water to be conveyed down to the carrier drains.
Yeah, and managing those flow rates. Carl, that's fantastic. Really, it's incredibly exciting to see this. I look forward to specifying it in my next design. Nice one. Cheers, Carl. Right, so we're at Network Rail. We are at the Network Rail Village, as they call it. I'm going underneath the giant inflatable thing. I think it might be the same one as they used last time. I hope it is. Come on, you don't need to rebuild new things every time. Anyway, there's all sorts here. So, for example, we have Nick Millington's task force, the track safety. I can't remember. It's the safety task force with the primary aim. They've got several aims, but one of the aims is to just get rid of red zone working, to get rid of working, lookout and in amongst trains. Their aim is to totally get rid of it because. And they've been working on this since the series of fatalities we had a couple of years ago, and since they've been pushing, the task force has been doing their thing. Funnily enough, serious injuries and near misses, most critically, I think the key thing is the near miss rate has just plummeted. So anyone saying, red zone is actually safe, it isn't, and we need to get rid of it, and that's what they're doing. It's quite successfully as well. So there's all sorts in there, and I wanted to show you a couple of the nice, clever little innovations that are really daftly simple, and these are absolutely one of them, which is these are the plates that sit on top of sleepers, right, to give you your, they are the 1-200 up relief fan. But more critically, I think better is actually this one. It's a magnet strip. Shove it on the web of the rail, and it allows you to see which the two tracks are. So gone are the days of the costs who's actually pretending they know the area they don't, having to fob off their working crew. Not that anyone does that, of course. They've got a label. It can be. They can see exactly which track is which and know which line is the line they're supposed to be working from, and actually know where they're supposed to be. So really clever little bit of innovation. I like that. I mean, call it innovation, not really innovation. It's doing a magnetic strip with some words on it, but it's clever stuff. And there's all sorts of clever kit around here. So I'll kind of I'll leave this team in peace and quiet. But yeah, the safety task force they're doing all sorts of things. And that came, by the way, from. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna show you because it's on the table. It should be on the table. Is it? It's not on the table. It came from just someone submitting it as an idea. So really kind of. It's exactly what I want to see. People coming up with clever little ideas and then rolling them out. While I'm walking this way, it's worth just saying, yes, people are, Network Rail might be considered by some as persona non grata at the moment, but the reality is the strikes are not Network Rail's, not of Network Rail's doing, they're of government's doing. Network Rail are piggy in the middle. So, there's a lot of staff here, and quite pleasingly, there are quite a few RMT, I've said this I think a few times, it's quite nice to see some RMT tabards around. So anyway, right, so. There's all sorts of safety stuff going on behind there. We've got lots of bits of innovative kit sitting around. This is very cool and very clever. Behind me here is, I'm going to walk in, behind me here is this tended stuff. So I got excited about geofencing when I first rode on an e-scooter. I was like, ooh, geofencing, all cars should have this. Well, they should. But what I hadn't thought of is the potential for safety. And these are super accurate. They're super position accurate to the point where they make that noise if you cross the rail into an adjacent line that might be open. So these are, they're essentially they're to augment the job of the site warden, as it were, who kind of taps you on the shoulder or shouts at you if you go somewhere that isn't safe. This kit is, everyone has it, and it just buzzes you if you're in the wrong place. Just really clever little bit of safety kit, just really, really clever bit. So that's geofencing in action. which is quite good. I'm going to put my arm there so that it doesn't burn off with lactic acid. Then I keep going this way. There's a nice big tent for feedback. The Zollner over there with their various bits of sort of train operated warning systems and things. You can see everyone here just like on park benches enjoying themselves. I promised everyone that this would be less of my bald chest this year, but hopefully there's enough of me doing sort of like tripoded shots. Anyway, right, let's keep going along here. There's all sorts of bits of clever kit. This is an autonomous testing vehicle. This is a weird autonomous vehicle. I presume this is a testing thing because it doesn't look big enough to actually do anything. Got the EU flag on there as well. Also, there's the nice, they're showing RRV sort of doing its thing behind as well, sort of, you know, doing whatever it is this RRV has decided it wants to do. There's the road fleet up there. We're going to come to that. We're going to come back to this gazebo momentarily. First, though, we're going to hold this again and rest this arm. We're going to walk this way. We're going to have a look at the road fleet because there's quite a lot of, you know, the reality is that Network Rail need to move their staff around, not on the railway, to get them to site, particularly in remote areas. And so there's something quite interesting over there that I might tell you what. I'm just going to rotate around and show you behind me what this thing is, because it's the nice Network Rail village thing, but it's framing something that you can see in the background there if you want to enjoy that. There we go. So anyway, I'm waffling. Behind us here is the fleet, and what's interesting about this fleet is that Network Rail are thankfully thinking about the fact that, okay, we have all these road vehicles, how are we going to get them around and try and reduce our emissions, because we want to be a zero emission sort of, you know, net zero, or rather actual zero, within a reasonable time scale. These are all electric vehicles. All of them are electric vehicles. So there's a range, you know, there's a range of like the sort of the various, you've got the sort of the big truck thing for the rugged outdoors, and you've got the incident officer vehicles, all these electric vehicles. So that's quite cool. What else we got? We got Fugo. Hello to Fugo and Rail, kind of Ryla here. Rail, have they renamed it? Have they renamed it from Rail Data to something else? No, I don't know. Anyway, there's a nice classic Aquarius Defender there with the Ryla data in front of us. That's quite interesting. Let's wander this way. So that's, yeah, what else have we got? I've been chatting for 6 minutes already, good grief. Maybe I'll chop this up. So we're going towards the gazebo tent over here. It's more like a building. It's quite substantial. Right, oh look, Dura Composites are over here. Dura with their, you can't see that. There's Dura with their platform. So let's go in here and have a look. What do we have? We've got NRDD. My design colleagues within Network Rail is NRDD. They do design of all sorts of things, usually early grip stage stuff that then lands on the desk of a kind of a consultant designer like me. What have we got? We've got commercial and procurement here. Well, everyone knows what they do, right? They buy things. What else have we got? So we've got intelligent infrastructure. There's the R&D portfolio of intelligent infrastructure, and there's intelligent infrastructure. Sentinel, who manage track worker competence. There's Sentinel, asset information services. Everyone's mean about asset information services, but they're getting there. Let's just put it that way. Training. So we've got Network Rail training over here. How do you train staff? So behind here you have various bits and pieces, quite snazzy bits of training kit. And oh look, if you want to do an interview, if anyone's wanting to do an interview, look, here's the. There we go. Anyway. What else have we got? Technical services. So here you have lots of actual bits of gubbins here. So if I hold up you can see there's all the gubbins sort of here, and I'm going to stand over here and sort of show you some of the things that are. So yeah, there's various bits of technical whiz-giggery here with technical services running, and the air team are over the other side as well. So there's quite a lot of bits of Network Rail kit innovation. But the name of the game here is a lot of the stuff that they're running here is trying to bring sustainability into everything and getting rid of emissions, and not just emissions, but the bigger, broader picture as well. You know, there's the old adage, and it's careful not to be misused, but the boots off ballast thing. It's not boots off ballast as in you get rid of those staff. As I've said throughout this video, it's about redeployment. It's about those skilled people making better use of them, because frankly we cannot, we have half the number of track workers per mile today than we had at nationalisation back in the middle of the last century. Half the number. We had back in 1948 we had 12 railway workers per mile of staffing right the way across the sector, so that's drivers and everything included. Now we only have 6, so we have half the number of people working on the railway per mile of railway that we have, and the only way we've achieved that thus far is technology. And given the challenges are only escalating, we need to be making better use of all those people to keep the railway running, dealing with the triple whammy of like a degrading asset, climate change battering things, and the fact that we want to run more trains. So the challenge is there to be had, and see it as an opportunity perhaps. Anyway, that was my Network Rail kind of wandering waffle. There's the Network Rail thing. I have visited your Network Rail. Anyway, there we are. Well, I am decidedly inside the best part of £1 million worth of kit. Crikey. Thanks to Vanel and the Railability team for letting me perch up here for this silly little link. Yeah, right, this bit. So we've had, either before or after, we have had, or are about to have, segments on the various exhibits, the kind of the static exhibitors with their various bits of, whiz gigs and gibbety crippets and bits of platform and culvert and what have you. We will or are about to have a segment on rolling stock, on trains, whether it's passenger, freight, operations, blah, blah, blah. This bit is about the backbone of the show, really. Fundamentally, it's a plant show. It's talking about this, there's hundreds of millions of pounds worth of yellow or orange kit on site at Rail Live, and I want to go and speak to some of the teams who run this stuff, who lease this stuff out, to kind of, and this stuff is, all of it looks very new, which means it's clearly, there's clearly innovation behind this. So let's dig into it and go and speak to a few of the teams who actually run this stuff. So this is the plant segment. So there's a huge range of yellow plant to choose from, but I've come over to the QTS sort of stand, partly because they just have an enormous range. I mean, look behind me. There's an enormous sort of. I think this creates bales from vegetation. I'm going to talk about veg clearance in a minute. You've got this enormous compactor. That's the most effective compactor there is to choose from for rail applications at the moment. One of its kind, or the only one of its kind. This type. I was watching them apply the transfers yesterday. Anyway, QTS. Vegetation clearance is it's not just politically dubious, challenging and tricky for local stakeholders. It's also enormously logistically complex and expensive and complicated and challenging and tricky, because you've got to survey what you need to clear. You've got to make sure that you're not wrecking any habitats, as part of that process. You've got to make sure that the geotechnical consequences are, there aren't going to be any serious geotechnical consequences. You've also got to get in, chop down often quite dangerous bits of vegetation that might fall into the railway. You've got to deal with all the stuff that's there afterwards, and so all this kit here, it gives you examples of different ways to manage that. So the more the kind of this high-tech kit, this innovative kit, is to control that process, to minimise the risk of stuff falling over, to deal with the consequences, to find ways to minimise how tricky it is to kind of get that stuff off site, and indeed the massive vegetation compactor here that's behind me here. Look, vegetation inside a compactor. Yeah, working out where to put it and how you get rid of stuff. So let's have a quick look around. Also, there's the QTS do loads of other stuff. So, they've got this vac behind. They've got another bit of kit here for removing sort of stuff. You can see the big sort of robot arm there for getting rid of things. So it's huge smash, and it's sort of the standard too. You've got a road railer behind. There's a nice road railer, and indeed this bit here. This is also a road railer. This enormous machine behind. So. All sorts of different size kit. This is just a sample of the various sort of things that QTS provide. But yeah, quite a lot of impressive vegetation management stuff here from QTS. So yeah, interesting to have a look and see how to make this process less complicated and a bit more safe. So I've come down to McCulloch Group. These are quite iconic vehicles. I think generally everyone at Rail Live knows McCulloch, but what's new? What else have you been adding to the repertoire and the fleet?
The panel lifters, these are the latest versions. So we've gone from 8 ton to 9 ton, and we've got the next iteration of that is up to 10 and 20.
Oh wow! Oh crikey! So that's almost like you get into the point of major like switch panel, like huge bits.
We have got a switch moving version of this, so we've got a method of doing this with 3 of these, but yes, it's to lit with the switches. And we're not going, but the main drag of the main bread and butter is RTRTs, which are the smaller machines.
The smaller ones there, yeah.
And we've got an electric version on here.
Yeah, I spotted, and it's got, I'll film a bit of B-roll in a minute, but it's got, Williams have been involved as well in developing it, which is quite cool, yeah.
It's the part of Williams that do the electric, so they've developed the batteries and helped develop the batteries. So that's a prototype, but obviously we're going to move it forward, which is going to be an advantage for not just for the environment, but working in tunnels and other things.
It gets tunnels when you've got a genset. Well, gensets are noisy as well, so there's a noise element, but also it gets smoky. It's not as pleasant a place to work.
And the other thing about our machines is that although a lot of them are diesel and the electric, they run off hydraulics. So the actual power, the motion power is hydraulic, so you can run hydraulic tools off it. With
Yeah.
You've got the electric motor, hydraulic takeoff, so you're not creating the same sort of emissions that you would with diesel.
Yeah.
And the other one, which you can't see, but I'm sure you'll come to later, is the Infinity.
Yes. Yeah. Tell me about the Infinity.
Well, the initial version of that was the TCT, which was rolling out cable drums.
Yeah, big drums. Yeah.
Picks them up, and instead of pulling the cable,
it would trundle along, rolling out the. Yeah.
And it's a lot quicker than pulling cable. But what we've done is we've further developed that now. So the Infinity actually takes a standard pallet. So if you've got a standard Dura pallet, you can move anything.
Okay.
I don't know if you've come across the portaloos that fold down.
Yeah.
Seen those?
Yeah.
Our last demonstration day that we had at Tuxford, we had one of those on the pallet. So you can take those folded down and move them. And the beauty of that is you don't need the rail to do it. Because they're track based.
Because they're tracked. Yeah. Nice.
I mean, innovation is really part of our DNA. It's something that we really push.
I mean, McCulloch has gone from strength. I remember earlier rail lives when it was still had. I don't know. I still haven't asked if they've got an iron brew in the fridge, but we'll get there. Earlier it was like really successful, but it was still like, and only in a very short space of time. Suddenly they were in New York. The New York Transit had them, and they're hugely international. There's successes in Australia and
New York, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia. We've got machines. Quite a big part of the world, and obviously that's another big part of it. We don't deliver work.
No, it's providing the machines to
provide the machines.
Yeah, and it's like so many machines around rail life, quite unique. These are very unique looking, very tailor made, but as a result of being tailor made for rail, they're incredibly popular. Suddenly it's like, we don't need to use stuff that's really not designed to do this thing. You can design a tool to do this task and do it really well. Yeah, and that's safer. It's
they are safer. I mean, they are unique. There are no other machines like that.
Yeah. No, it's very cool. It's brilliant. Ray, thanks so much for that. Good chat. Nice one. So if I just walk into the Van L and Railability compound, I want to ask myself the question, how many different ways can you smack things into the ground? Which is an important question, particularly in a railway where lots of our things need to be held down or investigated or require some form of kind of substantial foundation. The answer is many ways, and by their own admission, the Railability and Van L folks have said, well, we haven't got all of our kit here, so here's just really, we're scratching the surface. But one of the things you do is drill an enormous hole, so that's useful. You drill an enormous hole. Behind me is a device, this enormous thing. Look at it, it's huge. That is a device for putting in sheet piles. So, sheet piles that kind of protect an earthwork. If you want to kind of cut into an existing earthwork to put something like a safe position of safety, for example, or something like that. What else have we got? We've got, sometimes we drill holes in the ground, not because we want to put things in them, or at least put things in that we want to keep there, because we want to understand what's actually in the ground first, putting something more substantial in. So, you've got a piling, a kind of a little ground investigation rig here. Above my head is a thing for either ground investigation, look, there it is above my head, ground investigation, or for ground remediation. So, for treating the ground, so to be better at supporting things. What we've got behind here, the other thing we've got is this device here, which, in fact, if I come around and show you it, this is a thing for holding up the E masts behind. You can see the nice little green grip there to make sure you don't make a mess of the thing you're picking up. Pick that up and attach it to whatever you've just piled a hole for. So all manner of different devices. This is just one, as the team here said, this is merely scratching the surface of the sorts of things that they can offer. I was sat in that thing for introducing this segment moments ago, and each of these bits of kit is, you're not getting much loose change for £1 million. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 million quid just sort of surrounding me. It's quite spectacular, really. That's 10 of my house and some. Oh, crikey. Anyway, Van L, worth just a little exploration of the sorts of things that are around here. So I've been coming to Rail Life for years and years, and walk down this sort of segment. There are several bits of iconic looking pieces of kit, and McCulloch, who we have or are about to speak to, have their kind of panel lifters and rail lifters. The other iconic looking bit of kit is the stuff is what we see over at GGR Group, the spider looking these. I'll put some B-roll up as well, these incredible things. So I thought, for once, rather than walking past it looking incredulous, I'd come and actually speak to the team and ask them about it. So I've got Paul here particularly, and Barry as well, I think. Paul, so these kit, they look spectacular. but they're very unique looking as well. So why do they look like this? And can you tell us a bit about what they do and kind of why they've got this particularly iconic looking shape?
Okay, well, they're called spider cranes because the outriggers come out and they form what would appear to be looking like a spider crane. Two models here. We have the 295.
Yep.
That's the one right in front of us, and the one to the side of us here is the 376.
Nice, yeah. So why do they look like this? What's the particular design, like the design brief that's led us to kind of looking like this?
The main thing is accessibility. Is to get a small crane close to where you're lifting. So because it folds up and it can travel close to where you're lifting, and then you spread it out, and it gives you a lifting platform. So where you need a big machine to stand a long way away, you can use a small machine
and get
closer.
And can you do like multiple? Can you have multiple cranes with doing a single lift? So is that a way to, or are they generally is it just for kind of they don't work in pairs?
We do tandem lifts.
Okay, yeah.
But it's mainly accessibility. That's the thing, especially with the smaller crane.
So yeah, because it doesn't have a cab. It's like hand operated from an operative.
We actually call that pedestrian crane.
Pedestrian crane.
You walk behind it.
Yep.
But we often take the boom off, take the outriggers off, lower it into holes, or put it onto roofs, or put it in the lifts and put it on top of roofs. And then we reassemble it and we put the outriggers underneath it, and then instead of lifting from the floor up, we're from the roof down.
It looks suspiciously like the width of the vehicle from kind of the outer track would sit within the bed of a track, like sit within the rails of a track, so they can trundle along in the kind of the forefoot.
It would actually fold it up. It would actually go through a double doorway at 600mm.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, crikey. Okay. So these are highly compact, pretty capable lifting machines, and they look pretty iconic, which I suppose is useful for people knowing that they are your bits of kit.
A lot of innovation on it. We've got that's a petrol engine one with a 410 drive motor as well. You can plug it in, but we could also, which we often do, is convert that to gas as well.
Oh, okay.
So we have 3 different drive systems on it, and we actually now produce them with battery only.
I was going to say, because that seems to be the move, that's kind of the theme across Rail Life. This is, so you're looking at going for full battery.
Well, we are full battery.
Oh, you are?
For a long time.
Nice.
The eco ones as well have been more colourful, they're bright green as well.
Oh, really? Okay, so yeah, absolutely.
The eco,
yeah. So 153, doing what it was always destined to do, which is not carry passengers. It was in fact to move inspection kit and bicycles. Thanks, ScotRail. Anyway, this segment is going to be all about rolling stock. We've got plenty of maintenance vehicles, inspection vehicles like this one. We've got a grinding train. There's a mobile maintenance unit over there. But we've also got passenger stock. There's the Revolution VLR over there. We've got the Innovate UK sort of COP26 train over there. We have, what else have we got going on? We have got, there's freight. There's the Orion unit, which was actually in service for a short while, albeit very quietly. There's all sorts, freight, passenger, and maintenance, sort of inspection stuff. It's all going on. So that's this segment, rolling stock time. Let's see what we can see. So I'm in front of a train, and not just any train. This is a rail milling train. You might have heard of grinding trains that scrape like tiny fractions of millimetres off the top of the railhead to give it the right shape, to make sure that you've got the right wheel-rail interface, and therefore you don't end up with a horrible ride and a rapidly degrading rail, and also more critically rolling contact fatigue. Look up Hatfield. But the grinding machines only take a tiny bit off the top of the railhead, and actually you have to quite often do multiple passes to get really in areas where there's a lot of kind of dynamic damage form, not wear, but kind of damage, cracking on the railhead. Grinding can't take enough off the railhead. Milling machines can. They are designed, in fact, let's wander along, shall we? If I cruise this way. Milling machines are, there's a picture, it's got Network Rail branding on it, which is nice. Although the Pride Network Rail logo doesn't quite work on that, but anyway. Linsinger, by the way, this is their machine. See bits. This is a huge machine. Behind me is a picture of what it does. It's rail milling, and you can see it's got this kind of complex kind of wheel that basically mills and removes quite substantial volumes of steel off the railhead. Now, you might think, well, surely that wears the rail out more rapidly. Not if the primary form of damage to that rail is cracking rather than mechanical wear. So through curves, often tight curves, you get mechanical wear, which is where you actually are wearing away material. that's quite predictable, quite safe as a type of damage. Through perhaps flatter curves, or sort of if you've got too much cant on a tight curve, you might see cracking forming, you know, fatigue cracks, like if you bend a paperclip and it eventually snaps, those sorts of cracks, fatigue cracking. Those are quite difficult to, I mean, we're getting better at spotting them with ultrasonics and now with eddy current testing. Milling is the way to get rid of those deep pervasive cracks. And so yes, you are getting rid of a lot of actual metal off the top of the railhead, but those cracks would kind of, you're essentially getting ahead of the cracks that are forming anyway. So you aren't reducing the life of the rail particularly more than it would be if it was cracking, and obviously you can't run a cracked rail in service. So that's what it is to get ahead of that crack formation. And this machine is pretty spectacular. It's also very shiny and clean. Look how shiny and clean it is. They've really done a number on it. It's very smart. So here it is. This is the machine, and you can see the scale of this machine. You know, this is two vehicles. It's got 12 wheel sets, 4 bogies, each coco, so there's 3, and then in amongst somewhere is the actual wheel that does the milling. I keep saying grinding because it's kind of, milling seems like a strange word to use, but it is milling. You see the picture. In fact, you see the picture behind me right there. Anyway, right, Linsinger, their rail milling train. Really interesting bit of kit. I mean, this isn't new, as in the machine is, but milling's been around for a long time. But yeah, we're seeing more of them out and about on network rail infrastructure. So what am I inside? Well, hopefully a bit of a hint from what you can see behind me here is some sort of standard freight trolleys. I'm going to walk through because I'm inside what was a York-built Class 321, and that's because this is Everschult's Swift 321. It is a fast freight solution. It's quite exciting. We're going to momentarily, in fact, I'm working my way towards the front. We're going to see the cab. This is it. So it's designed for kind of palletized, containerized freight of all different sizes, types. It's ideal for like the Amazons of the world. Look at this like hilarious sort of old safety poster that's attached to it. They've almost like printed out the old one on the back. I quite like that. Anyway, here we are. Look, it's the inside of the cab of a 321. It looks the same as EMU cabs looked for decades. Anyway, I'm going to go this way, and we'll have a chat with the person or one of the people who's been instrumental in this solution. Nick, we're here outside a train that has your name on it. So, firstly, tell us about the Swift 321, and obviously it's a bigger scene. I'm jibing, of course, but yeah, tell us about the 321.
Yeah, okay. So our project's about taking an existing passenger train that's now come to the end of its use as a passenger vehicle and converting it for fast freight. So we've seen the big growth in home delivery, Gareth, and I think the key for the railway is to try and get a small part of that market. If you look at the number of goods that are now delivered every day by all the high street retailers, the opportunity to use the railway for what it's good at, which is moving large quantities of goods long distance, is clearly there.
Now that we're because it's funny, Red Star Parcels just choked at the point where if it had just hung on maybe like an extra decade, it could have just self-sustained. Absolutely. So it's interesting to think about the fact that we've got these highly complex supply chains now that the Amazons of the world and other sort of kind of these large courier sort of ecosystems, almost to describe it, they have their distribution technology and the processing of it. That presumably would wire quite nicely into this becoming a core of those distribution networks, and then you'd span out into the existing infrastructure at the urban ends, right? Is that how you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got city centre stations, so we've got access to the centres of cities, but we've also got regional distribution parks, some of which are now being built with rail-served lines, and there may be opportunity to connect other parts of the network as well. So clearly we're starting with an electric train, which needs 25,000 volt to
not a bad place to start.
But we don't really want to diesel haul it, so we are now looking at a further development, which is to put a small amount of battery power in it. So what we call a shunt mode, so that it can then move off of the electrified network into a regional hub, which may not be electrified.
Nice. So I mean, much as this train is the sort of centerpiece, actually, so from my perspective, I'm sure there were engineering challenges, but actually I think that it's very smart inside. I've just done a quick walk through it. That feels like it wasn't necessarily the most complicated bit. It feels like the for example, you know, platform capacity is very limited in our rail networks, and actually then wiring that into the existing space within a station feels like a challenge. So what has been done, you know, what have Eversholt been doing to sort of look at the whole system, not just the train, to kind of understand exactly how that'll work without, you know, and timings and all that complexity?
Yeah, I mean, we are train specialists and train owners. We're not logistics specialists, so we are working with people that understand that business and the operators, the freight operators, to see how that will work. I think, yes, there were engineering challenges. One of the things that we looked to do was to ensure that we kept the units compatible with the network. So by that I mean
gauge clearance and weight.
So we built that into the design. So the reason we've got a thick steel floor panel is because that is the weight, the equivalent weight of the seats.
I
so
see.
The reason it's called a 3213 is because it still is regarded as a network to be compatible with a 3213. So we managed to keep the gauging, clearance, and all the compatibility.
Yeah, the behaviour through curves and all that stuff and the mass. Interesting. Okay,
yeah. So that was our key sort of concern, and we managed to achieve that. So it retains its network.
Yeah, because you don't want to go through that whole process of essentially treating it like a new train. And much as that might increase the amount that you can carry, actually, I presume there's a bit of a marginal gain situation there. Of actually, for the marginal extra, you know, distributed load from the metal plate, you're not getting that much freight for this type of goods anyway, right? Which is it's kind of generally low density stuff.
Yeah, if you look at the sort of parcels you receive, most of them are free air, aren't they? It's all plastic and space, isn't it? And bombs. So the train tends to volume out rather than mass out, so it can take up to 38 tons of payload. But in most applications, you wouldn't see that sort of weight.
It'd be full. It would look like a ball pit in there before you got anywhere near that reaching load limit. Yeah, okay.
I think the other thing that rail opportunities presents is one of being able to sort the parcels on the move. So we can't do that in a road lorry. You know, potentially if you've got a train running from London to Scotland, you can put staff on there. They could be moving things around. You could be dropping load off, picking load up. So there are all sorts of flexibilities that rail can offer, as well as the economy of 12 lorries worth of equipment into one train with one driver, and electrically hauled.
So, kind of as a last question, do you feel like the as you say, Eversholt trains is what you do? Do you kind of feel like that bit's a largely solved problem now, and it's the bigger system picture stuff, that the logistics side of it, that's the next step in the story? Do you kind of feel that's where you're at?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've built this train, it's on lease to one of our customers, and we've got 4 more that are just being finished. One finished its final test this week, and those trains are now available. And so, we are talking to potential customers. We've got a small fleet, we've got a number of trains in store ready to be converted as well. So I think we're right at the cusp of this taking off.
It's exciting. Thanks very much, Nick, for your time, Nick. Yeah, it's really good. Hopefully we'll be seeing these darting around in whatever exciting livery the operator might choose fairly soon. Fingers crossed. This is Network Rail's mobile maintenance train. Well, actually, technically, it's Harsco's, the high Harsco, folks. This is it's a 3-vehicle fixed formation, and it is theoretically trying to move us in a new direction for track maintenance. Certainly for sort of spot maintenance, it's sort of a localized area, say an IRJ replacement or something like that, or a spot welding. This bit actually has skirting which opens up. So at the moment it's within gauge, it opens up outside of gauge to provide safe working, but still allowing for trains to go past on an adjacent track. So it's a clever way of working. There's a crane overhead that allows you to lift heavy stuff. It's really clever stuff. There's welfare units in here. It's a nice space for people to spend time on. Now that COVID's cleared, anyway, it was not designed with COVID in mind. So there's a little bit of a pause in the trials of these. But these have been around for quite a while now. There's only 8 in the country, but it's trying to encourage that change in the way of doing work. So you roll this thing out. Because it's a train, it has signal protection. So you already have that form of overall protection, and then you can put track circuit operating clips or whatever it happens to be. Anyway, so there's this intermediate car within which I presume is like the welfare and bits and pieces. I think the stuff that runs it is in here, but there's a kind of a big there's a ramp thing here, which it's enormous, and this is basically a ramp thing, I presume, for getting kit on and off. And again, you come in here, there's the expandable bit here, so I think there is a section of it where it kind of expands out. Anyway, it's all sensationally clever. You've got the generating unit here, you can put all your kit in, very clever stuff. I hope that we see more of this sort of thing rolling around. Again, as with the whole theme of this innovation, all this kit is not to get rid of track workers. It's so that those track workers, who are skilled people who have incredible knowledge of the way the asset works, can get on with looking after it in different ways. It's making far better use of our workforce. That's quite nice. It's quite smart. made in Germany. Anyway, so there you go. Mark, thanks for giving me a couple of minutes of your busy schedule. Behind us is probably amongst the best it's ever looked, 153. It looks very nice and shiny in that sort of sky blue.
And that's been for the last
years.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right, obviously there's loads of fantastic kit on it, and we could both get very excitable about the specifics of the technology, but actually I thought rather than going into the details of the S&C inspection and all that technology, the interesting thing to think about is actually why a 153 has been selected, and maybe a bit more of a broader picture about the Network Rail yellow fleet or blue fleet.
Blue fleet,
yeah. So first of all, why a 153?
Why a 153? Very, very good question. So I'd like to say, well, we've done a massive study into what the best platform would be, but to be perfectly honest with you, the 153 was really the only vehicle that was suitable at the time to meet the timescales that we were working to. But quite fortuitous, I think, that we have chosen a 153. So. Proven to be incredibly reliable. So there have been these two. There's this unit and another unit that's in service at the moment. Been in service for 6 months now. Never let us down, really? Which is good. Yeah. Very, very simple unit. Very, very easy to maintain. There's still a lot of industry experience out there to work on 153s. There's still a lot of drivers out there that still hold a driver competence.
Of course, yeah.
Spare parts are easy to come by. There are a lot of units that are being scrapped now. So again, you can sort of retrieve spare parts from those as well. But there are still a number of units that are out there that are in good condition. Obviously, for us, one of the key things was to choose something that didn't need a massive load of rework. So corrosion is quite an issue on these units. So we chose ones that weren't, didn't have significant corrosion. This particular one is now coming up for a C6 overhaul in the near future, where we'll be doing some modifications as well. But a brilliant unit for an inspection vehicle. It does 75 mile an hour, so can fit in with passenger vehicles. Also, lots and lots of space underneath as well. In terms of being able to fit kit underneath, just proven to be a really, really good basis for monitoring kit.
So I mean, it's quite nice because it almost looks the part. Like it looks like it's been selected for it. And I joked about this in the segment intro, saying that actually this is probably a better use for it than carrying passengers, frankly. But without being too much, sorry to everyone who loves 153s. The other thing that I was quite interested in is the broader picture of the fleet. Is this going to replace some of the existing yellow fleet? Is it part of augmenting it? Is the yellow fleet Network Rail's inspection and maintenance fleet? Is it growing? Kind of what's the shape of the fleet going to be looking like over the next short medium term?
This specifically is an addition to the existing yellow fleet. So this came about specifically to do S&C inspections, which aren't done at the moment by the yellow fleet. So we're hoping that we'll roll out a number of these, probably in the order of sort of maybe 10, 12, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
We're also working on a PLPR version of this as well, so plain line pattern recognition, again to do infill to support the rest of the yellow fleet where that's sort of been struggling a little bit, and we're also looking at doing a class 319 VRU, so that can run through sort of Moorgate tunnels and places like that, where non-diesel traction or diesel traction is not permitted. But in terms of the bigger picture for the yellow fleet, so I work for the IM program, and we're looking at sort of what the future of the yellow fleet is, and there's obviously that's sort of split into two. There's passenger-based inspection, passenger vehicle-based inspection, and then there's the core fleet as well. So that is going to be changing significantly in the near future. Clearly, operating, with 50, 60-year-old locos and similar age wagons is not the way forward in the long term. It is recognised that it is life expired within Network Rail. It is not delivering the level of reliability that we need. There's a strong push to where we can move that onto passenger vehicles, but clearly things like ultrasonic testing can't really be done on passenger vehicles because of the speed limitations and what have you. But what does that look like? We're going to be going to tender by the end of this year for that new provision, that new service provision. Is that a wagon-based solution? Is that an EMU-based solution? We're going to go to the market and basically we
see what people reckon.
Experts and sort of see what they come up with. But I think in the next sort of 3 to 5 years, we'll be looking at a much more sort of blended fleet, some which will be regionally based, some which will still be sort of provided from a national pool as well. So it's definitely going to be looking very different, and it's definitely not going to be class 37s pushing things around in the future.
Nice one, Mark. That's terrific. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Have a job. So for the fourth and final segment of tonight's show, I'm going to be talking about people, skills. How do we build and continue to grow this workforce that we need to run the industry? And we talked to the PWI, NSAR, and in the context of the strikes, I think it's probably a useful subject for us to have a little think about before ending. So let's go and have a chat with some people. I'm here at the PWI stand. Actually, we're behind the PWI stand because it's very noisy over there, because it's quite busy, which is good. Joan, absolute pleasure to have a little chat with you. This whole segment is about people and about the workforce and about skills and experience. We're in a bit of a time in the industry at the moment where we are risking losing quite a lot of experience before it sifts down through. How is the PWI facilitating that knowledge transfer? What can we do to avoid losing that knowledge?
What a question, Gareth.
I know, it's a huge one, but yeah.
It is, and really quite easy for us to answer, because we are the institution for rail infrastructure engineers, whether you're a young person, whether you're a more mature and experienced person. So we hold all that knowledge. And a key part of our tenets is about knowledge share. So we provide lots of opportunities for people to share that knowledge. And even if people are leaving the industry, they still got the knowledge in their head. They're still within our membership.
Yes.
And we absolutely tap into those people and ask them to keep sharing that knowledge back to the people that are coming up in the next generation.
Yeah. And we're expanding. So, until not that recent, because it's been a long-going process, but traditionally perhaps people thought of us as just the track. Exactly. And we've been expanding beyond that, and not just to electrification either, which has obviously kind of been a recent project, is to kind of absorb our electrification colleagues, which I think we've done fantastically. The conference up in Glasgow was a real success, really good news. Where do you see that continued expansion? What's the next target? Who are we picking on?
I think we have, we are branded now as for rail infrastructure engineering, therefore it's within those confines of that. And really, it's all about systems engineering, isn't it? And getting people to understand that, yes, you may be an expert in a discipline, but you've also got to have a really good appreciation of all the other disciplines and how they fit together within the system, so that you can be a competent and confident engineer or person working within rail infrastructure engineering.
Absolutely. So the next for me, it's things like drainage. we consider it as track, but actually often they end up drainage and geotechnical engineering often end up kind of earthworks end up elsewhere. Because again, they don't, like electrification, they didn't really have a natural home, and certainly our earthworks colleagues and friends don't feel like they've got a natural home, given that it's quite, on railway applications can be quite specific, it's quite specific knowledge. So, okay, that's exciting. So, Joan, thanks for that. Really good to chat. Also come join the PWI.
Absolutely.
If you're a student, it's free.
Free, absolutely. Join our membership, you'll be very welcome.
Thanks, Joan, that's smashing. I'm here with Daisy Chapman-Chamberlain, who, Daisy, you've been hosting or quite a few of the sessions at the theatre, this Rail Live. What kind of interested you in doing that? What made you think that was, what kind of brought you along to get involved?
It's Rail Live, isn't it? It's the event for the industry. Everyone's here. You only have to walk around to see the scale and breadth of the innovation that's on display here. We've got Innovate UK's funded Porterbrook train at the front, obviously Hydroflex, and we've got all sorts of incredible innovations on display throughout the entire event space today.
It's a huge space. There's so much here, isn't it?
Absolutely fantastic. And it's just such a good atmosphere as well. Everyone's so happy to be here. Everyone's so friendly, and it's just such a brilliant space to come network and find out what's going on in the sector.
Absolutely. Thanks, Daisy. Well, incredibly frustratingly, given that Ian and Catherine gave me 10 minutes of their time, 5 minutes of chat and another 5 minutes of me faffing around, the audio just did not work for this segment. It was just too noisy, even with my lapel mic picking it up. And also partly I think my lapel mic had slightly melted by this point. Rail Live is always a series. It's very hot. In any case, this conversation was a really interesting one, and I think I'm long overdue a trip down to the ORR office to sort of speak to the team there anyway and see what they get up to and see how they kind of manage things. So I think Ian is incredibly knowledgeable and cares a lot about safety on the railways. Likewise, Catherine is really interesting to speak to Catherine and understand her perspective. I think it'd be good to have this conversation again somewhere less noisy, and we can talk perhaps in a little more detail about how the ORR is overseeing safety in relation to not just the change in the railway industry structure, but also in relation to the changes in workforce that we're seeing and the pressures that are resulting in the strikes. So I think it'd be worthwhile having this conversation again somewhere where you can actually hear it. So sincere apologies to Ian and Catherine, but I can tell you now, it was a very interesting series of answers, mostly talking about using the common safety method and the existing legislation to actually manage the safety process. The kind of manage that transition, but also they were talking about the kind of individual approaches to some of the specifics, which was it was very interesting stuff. I'm only sorry you can't hear it. Maybe I'll try just dropping the original video in, and people can, because you can just about hear it, but it's just not. It's really not very clear. Ian's voice hasn't picked up very well at all. So that's I can only apologise. Sorry, everyone. It is rail now. You get what you pay for. So your R10, I think highlighting the importance of Samaritans within the industry is that you are necessarily, it's a cause that Ian feels very strongly about, actually, personally. Dave, firstly, the simple answer or sort of the key question is, why does a group like Samaritans have to be here at a rail industry event?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's twofold, really. Obviously, we have got a partnership with the rail industry in terms of suicide prevention on the rail network, primarily focused towards members of the public, but of course rail workers themselves do have their own mental health struggles, so it's really important we have that visibility and people know that we're here, we're available, and people can reach out to us and we can have those conversations. They don't have to have a conversation with me today. There's cards they can take away, a little bit of merch, and that can raise that bit of awareness when they're ready.
So it's in quite a lot of ways quite a difficult time in the industry, particularly for the workforce.
For sure.
Is that something that are you noticing a higher level of let's say engagement with Samaritans? Are you making yourselves available in different ways to potential people who potentially worry about their futures in the industry? Can you paint the picture?
Yeah, so we always try and have that awareness. Events like this, which the ORR are really kindly hosting us at, it's a really good opportunity, like I said, to raise that awareness. Because, like you say, it is a sensitive time for people, and there are all kinds of pressures, be it job pressures, be it like the general financial situation, be it the knock-on of COVID. So it's important now more than ever that Samaritans have that visibility and are making themselves available for the rail industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice one. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for that. I'm riding with the man himself as we here he is. It's Top Gear style. We're driving and I'm interviewing you. Nigel, we were both thinking that today would be a bit quieter actually, and that yesterday would be the busy day. It's Thursday, everyone, and it's been busy. It's been really busy today. I've been quite pleased with the numbers. I don't know what you think.
Well, it has. I'm relieved it's been as busy as it has. As is the case last year, it's not quite as busy as the first day. The second day is always a little bit quieter. But we were worried with the strike and everything else it might have a major impact, and it seems not to have done that. We had over 3,000 people through yesterday, and the visitors that I talked to seem to be really happy. There's a real buzz about it. And I've just been on the Dura Stand, where Stuart, the managing director, said that they've had the best day yesterday that they'd ever had anywhere at any show in the last 15 years. 15. And that is really the sort of thing that we're looking for, from to keep the exhibitors happy and to feel as though they've derived value from the effort and indeed the cost of attending. So to hear that is just really good, and certainly talking to other exhibitors, they all seem pretty happy. So we're already having conversations about what we do next year to add to the show and make it of greater impact and value and enjoyment. And that all starts. I won't say it starts tomorrow.
It starts midweek next week.
I'm not planning on doing much tomorrow, but certainly next week we'll be having the first review meetings of what's worked and what hasn't, and then what we do next year. So it's all been really, really good.
It's been fab. It's just seeing a lot of happy people, and as with this event, it's an event for the people. It's very much like the people of the industry who are out here. Like, yes, there's all these whiz gigs and it's fantastic, but actually it's people meeting each other. It's that networking. And it's nice to feel like Rail Live is now very much embedded in that calendar. People know when Rail Live is kind of a fixed point in the year. It's good.
We're absolutely very happy about that. And the fact that the sort of an unintended benefit of the top half HV is it's somehow a great leveller. Whether you're managing director, chief executive, chairman, frontline staff, whatever, you've just got railway people who care about what they do and they care about the industry. And there's just a great buzz here. And we've done different things this year. We're just passing the the hawks,
Yeah, the hawks.
keep the pigeons down on the big cathedral stations. Sadly, we haven't got the helicopters because they were withdrawn for crime patrols during the strike because the scrap thieves get to work.
Yeah.
But it's still been a great show, and we're really happy with it.
It really has. Yeah, it's been fantastic. Nigel, thanks so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
And I'll see you before next year, but certainly I'll be back next year. Goodness knows what I'll be doing next year, but I'll be back filming again.
Indeed, God willing, it will be here in no time.
It's the end of the day on Thursday. Well, not quite, but there's still quite a lot of people around actually, surrounded by them. We have had, given the circumstances, I talked about the dark clouds at the start, but I think my general feeling, and I think I might have mentioned this a few times in various bits and pieces that I've recorded, God knows how I'm going to stitch those together, but we'll manage. The general feeling of this is an event for the workforce as much as it is about bits and pieces. It's certainly not exclusively a day for managers and salespeople and senior managers and senior industry figures. It's about everyone. So one of the things I certainly feel is I think that was reflected in the fact there are people here yesterday with RMT tabards on, quite a few people here with RMT badges on. I think the important thing for me, I care a lot about this event because I think it's really good to showcase what this industry does, and I think there's nowhere that does it in a more kind of compact, small space to show how much that the railway actually offers in one small space in terms of infrastructure. Okay, snazzy trains is one thing, passenger experience is clearly very important, but this is about keeping the railway actually functioning. So, just had a chat with Nigel there. He's very happy with how the event's gone. My perception is that this has been a pretty successful year for it, particularly given the circumstances, but actually even on merit. We've had numbers that are at least the same as last year, which is really good. So, I'm going to swap arm because I'm just tired. I'm running low on energy. Running around filming things is hard work, believe it or not. So, what can I say to kind of close things out? Well, we talked. First of all, we visited and spoke to some of the exhibitors. Just a few, not a big run through like last time, just a few of the exhibitors. I think I did a little drive around with Nigel, with me sat on the back of the Nigel mobile, sort of pointing the camera out to show you the idea of this, and I'd give you an idea of the scale of the event. So yeah, we talked to some exhibitors, and that was number one. Number two, with some plant. We actually, for once, rather than me waving my arms around about it, I actually spoke to some of the companies that provide plant. So we had a look at those sort of spider-looking creations. We had a look at the. What else? We had a chat with McCulloch. Yeah, good stuff. We had a look at trains. So we did. Hi, Catherine. Hi. We had a look at trains. We had a look at some of the new bits and pieces, freight, and all this sort of good stuff, which is good. We had a look at the 153 as well. Had a chat. So, and then the last bit we spoke to, we had a chat and we thought about people. We thought about the kind of the fact that the industry doesn't exist without people. All this stuff, this isn't stuff just for the sake of stuff. This is stuff to make people's lives easier. Stuff to allow us to make better use of our workforce. And when I say better use of our workforce, I don't mean shrinking that workforce. No, I don't mean that. Some people might mean that. I do not mean that. It also doesn't mean exploiting or reducing the salaries of our workforce. It means we have a limited number of people. There are so many parts of the industry where we are struggling to recruit. We're desperately struggling to recruit. This is about making better use of our skilled people so that we can expand the railway. Government might not think that, but I do, and most of the people here think that as well. So yeah, overall, pretty good. Hopefully a useful summary. Hopefully a chance. Yeah, hopefully a chance to really give you. I'm still giving you a flavour for the event, I hope. Anyway, enough of me waffling. It's time to say goodbye. I'm now gonna. It's because I've got this bag on, and it means the lactic acid is building up in this arm horrendously. The thing is, hanging this, the gimbal doesn't work very well. Anyway, if I hold it like that, maybe that'll work. So, without further ado, everyone, thanks for listening. For those who've listened in audio-only format, this might actually not work too badly in audio-only format. I rarely say that, but I think this time it might work quite nicely. Oh look, they put some pallets up to stop people cutting through the back there. That's funny. Anyway, audio-only people, yes, this should be up on time. I should be on top of the posting schedule. Let's hope so. Next bit. Oh yeah, plugging. Patreon.com/GarethDennis. If you want to support more of this, then that's where to go. Subscribe, and not subscribe and like. You can subscribe me through Patreon. Should we just walk through this drainage pipe? It's always fun to do that. Hello, Aqua, the Aqua team here. You can get merchandise at Masquet. You can get Abolish the Treasury mugs. They're flying off the shelves like hotcakes, apparently. So I presume it's because John Stone's just bought a bunch and is sending them to his chums. Thanks, John. We have paypal.me/Gareth Dennis, where you can throw loose change and abuse at me. And lastly, of course, the Discord. Hello, everyone in the chat. Hopefully you've been yammering away. But yeah, the Discord server, GarethDennis.co.uk/Discord, where you can continue that chat ad infinitum. Everyone. It only really remains after that. Oh, I tell you what. I have, as in tonight, as in it's Thursday for me in my timeline, I'm about to record an episode of TF. So if you want to listen to me talking about strikes and getting very angry and probably blue in the face, then you can join me on Trash Feature, the free one. It's the free one. Will be going out, so you can join me on TF with your favourites, talking about strikes, probably going out about the same time as this episode is. So yeah, do that. The other thing, thanks past Gareth, is of course next week's episode, which is going to be what is Very Light Rail, VLR, and is it any good? I indeed did record some bits of that episode, this episode, next week's episode. Oh my god, the timeline is broken. At Rail Live, and then I did a load of other stuff at the VLR conference the week before. So this should be a bit of a mishmash, but it's going to be a hybrid sort of pre-record and live one. So I'll dump all the pre-record stuff together, and then afterwards there'll be a bit of a Q&A. So that should be interesting. So tune in for that. Otherwise, I will see all of you next week for probably a live one, an in-person one where you can chat to me in real time. From me at Rail Live, as I begin my long 150-mile journey home. Cheerio, cheerio.